Today we unpack STEVIT. That's right, STEVIT. You know, coaches love acronyms. And STEVIT stands for the 6 No's of leadership. And that comes out of my book, Rebound, From Pain to Passion. So let's explore the first and foundational S in STEVIT, know thyself. This journey starts with a story of failure, feedback, and ultimately freedom. Why is knowing yourself the bedrock of leadership, in my opinion? Because it's not just about self-awareness. It's about self-honesty. Your blind spots, ego, and insecurities impact your team and culture, whether you realize it or not. There's a quote I love: the hardest person to lead is yourself. And it's so true. In Rebound, From Pain to Passion, I write about how not knowing myself led to mistakes, ones that stalled my growth and hurt the people around me. Feedback is a mirror, painful, but priceless. Let me tell you a story. I had just gotten let go from UNC. I was at rock bottom. And as I stated in my book, I met with Carol Weber, who is a professor at UVA and an executive coach. I thought maybe she'd comfort me. I wanted to hear, it's not your fault, it's their fault. Instead, she looked at me and said, you're a find the flaw kind of coach. And woo, that was a gut punch. I was angry, defensive, but deep down, I knew she was right. And then she gave me the results of my Myers-Briggs assessment. She said that I was an ENTJ. And I remember sitting on her couch in her beautiful home in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I started to sit up a little bit. ENTJ had me curious. I've been called a lot of 4-letter words before, especially in places like Reynolds Coliseum at NC State, Cameron Indoor Stadium at Duke, but never ENTJ. So she went on to explain that only 2% of the population shares that profile. And in that moment, I thought, I'm elite, top 2%. North Carolina just fired an elite coach. And I sat up. I sat up taller, shoulders back, chin up. And she knew what I was thinking. And she immediately said, no. 2% of the population, that means 98% of the population doesn't think like you think. Bam, gut punch number 2. That meeting was a pivotal point in my life. It led me to deep reflection and a journey of self-discovery. It was the first step to becoming a more authentic leader. So I ask you, when was the last time someone told you the truth and you listened? Let's talk tactics. How do you begin to know thyself? Start with journaling. Write down your thoughts, spot patterns, listen to your self-talk. Matter of fact, I've gotten into journaling so deeply over the last 2 years. I've journaled every day for 2 years that I'm coming out with my own journal called the Timeout Journal. And the thing I love about this journal is it prompts you with questions. I always struggled to journal. I'd open up a blank page, and I'd look at it, I'd get distracted, and I'd move on. My journal will prompt you with questions, so it forces you to stay engaged. Also, use tools like DISC, Predictive Index, or Myers-Briggs. These self-assessments, don't use them as labels. Use them as mirrors. Get executive coaching. Hey, I'm available. DohertyCoaching.com. And seek 360-degree feedback. One of the most impactful exercises I've ever done in my life. After I left North Carolina, I worked with an executive coach, Dr. Jerry Bell, in Chapel Hill. He conducted a 360-degree survey that went to my former staff at North Carolina, and I got real feedback. I got the truth. Ask questions of your people. What's it like to be on the other side of me? Where am I playing a role instead of being real? And what am I pretending not to know? These are questions you also ask yourself. This journaling isn't about being perfect. It's about self-awareness. And oh, by the way, nobody's perfect. All right. The only person that was, they hung on a cross a long time ago. And then owning what you find. Okay. That's the key. So let's recap. Self-leadership comes before team leadership. And if you don't know yourself, you cannot lead others. You can't rebound without reflection. And knowing yourself, it's not a one-time thing. It is a daily discipline. Leadership is a practice, okay? It's like playing a sport, like playing golf. You don't take one golf lesson and expect to go under par at Augusta. You've got to work on your game continually, okay? The best golfers in the world, after the first round at the Masters, what do? They go to the range and tweak their swing with their swing coach. Well, that's like leadership. That's also like self-growth. Who is your coach? Who is your accountability partner? So here's your challenge. Ask someone you trust, what's one thing I don't see about myself that I need to? Then the hard part, listen. Today, we turn outward to the people we lead. The T, the first T in STEVIT, stands for know your team. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It takes a team. But only if you know who you're walking with. Leadership isn't about titles. It's about relationships. Knowing your team means more than knowing names and job descriptions. It means understanding their strengths, their stress responses, their communication styles, their motivations. There's a popular phrase, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. I've seen that through and through firsthand. I've lost good people because I didn't take time to really know them. When you treat people like cogs in a machine, they check out. Transactional leaders use people. Transformational leaders grow people. I love that distinction, transactional versus transformational leaders. And it all starts with knowing your team. Let me share a story. There was a time I misread somebody on my team. I thought they were underperforming. I assumed they were lazy. In reality, they were overwhelmed. They were fighting battles I didn't see. Another time I tried to push someone publicly thinking it would motivate them. Instead, they shut down. They felt humiliated. I didn't know them, so I couldn't lead them. I've learned this. Different people respond differently to different pressures. Connections precede correction. Let me repeat that. Connection precedes correction. When you learn how someone is wired, you learn how to win with them. So how do you get to know your team? Use tools like DISC or predictive index. Build a common language around behavior. Oh, by the way, ask them how they would like to be coached. I had a player, Troy Murphy, at Notre Dame, a great player, an All-American. I remember him telling me, don't compare me to a guy named Rafe LaFrance who had coached at Kansas. I thought that would motivate him. And I said, well, how would you like me to coach you? And he just said, don't compare me to Rafe. And I didn't. That built a trust. He responded and ended up having an MVP season, MVP of the Big East, and an All-American. So schedule consistent one-on-ones like the one I had with Troy Murphy, not just to talk about tasks, but to ask real questions. Build feedback loops like, what do you need from me that you're not getting? I remember the one-on-one with Troy and many other players. I was pushing people to be great and asking them to respond like I would respond. Good leadership follows the platinum rule, okay? Not the golden rule. The golden rule is treat people how you would want to be treated. But the platinum rule is treat people how they would want to be treated. Try this 4H check-in. Head, heart, hands, and home. What are you thinking about? How are you feeling? What are you working on? How's life outside work? The 4 H's. Love that stuff. These questions deepen trust. And remember, this isn't built in a day. It's built in daily moments. Don't fake the connection. People feel it. Leaders light up the scoreboard, but only if the locker room is lit first. Let's recap. Knowing your team is about understanding their wiring and motivations, adapting your leadership to who they are, building trust through consistency every day. Here's your challenge. Schedule one conversation with a team member, not about performance, but just about them. Who are they? What drives them? Today, we're unpacking a topic that separates reactive managers from elite leaders. Know your environment. This is continuation of the STEVIT 6 No's of Leadership, STEVIT, and the E is for environment. Leadership doesn't happen in a bubble. It happens in a context. And your ability to lead well depends on your ability to read the field, read the room. Let me tell you a quick story. When I was coaching at North Carolina, I used to really study everything I knew about not only the opponent, but the arena, the lighting, the court. Where were the dead spots in the court? The fans, and yes, the referees. I needed to know the environment before I could lead my team into it. I remember going into Duke for the first time as the head coach at North Carolina and talking to the players about, these fans, they're great, they're loud, but they can't come out and block your shot. They can't come out and steal the basketball. They can only make noise. And one of the best things to do as a player and a coach is to go on the road and make them grow quiet. And yes, that's what we did in 2000. But yet in business, we often charge ahead without truly understanding where we are. Let's break this down. Point number 1, know the market. What's changing around you? Are you paying attention to the trends, technology, competitors? Have you conducted a SWOT analysis of your last year's revenue, of your last year's run? What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? That's a SWOT analysis. Are you listening to your customers, not just with surveys, but with curiosity? How about that? Curiosity. Are you polling your customers in person? See, most people fill out a survey and people get tired of surveys. People get tired of, if I put a 3 or a 2 on a 5-point scale, 5-star scale, it almost fights me and it makes it tougher for me to tell you the truth. And I think as leaders, we want to mine for the truth and make it easy for people to tell us the truth. More of that later on in the 6 No's of Leadership. But a leader who knows the market can adapt, and one who doesn't will become irrelevant. Let's talk about Kodak. Kodak didn't go out of business because they didn't know how to take pictures. They went out of business because they didn't read the environment. They didn't see around the bend. Number 2, know the team culture, your office, whether it's remote or in person. The culture is in the air your people breathe, okay? It's a vibe. You feel it. So ask yourself, are your people energized or exhausted? Are they aligned or fragmented? Are you empowering them or micromanaging them? A toxic culture kills performance silently and slowly. One of the biggest leadership blind spots is believing your people are motivated just because you are. Here's a tip. Walk slowly through the office. Ask questions. Watch how people respond when the meeting ends. That's when the real environment reveals itself. See, 50% of communication is body language, 35% is tone, and only 15% is content. Okay, so it's not what they say, it is how they say it. So you can't get content. I mean, you can't get body language or tone in a survey or an email. You really have to get in front of people and ask and see how they respond. Point number 3, know yourself in the environment. You are part of a system. You're part of an ecosystem. You influence it. So ask yourself, am I leading with clarity or confusion? Am I building trust or tension? Am I showing up present or distracted? Sometimes the environment feels off because you're off. So take ownership of that. Take a deep breath and take a look around. Quick exercise. I want you to do a leadership environmental scan this week. Yes, a leadership environmental scan this week. Ask yourself, what's the one external trend that could impact our business? Number 2, what's one internal cultural issue I've been ignoring? Number 3, how do I typically affect the energy in the room? Wow. Energy. That is such a big topic because there are two kinds of players: energy givers and energy suckers. What kind of player are you as a leader? Are you bringing energy or are you sucking the energy out of the room? Energy is a gift. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. You've got to bring that enthusiasm. And you got to pump yourself up as a leader. David Novak, who was the former CEO of Yum Brands, I interviewed on the Rebound, and he talked about, he had to lead 1.5 million people worldwide. And I always ask people, what was their morning routine? And most people say, I journal, I pray, I work out, and I try to do the same. And he would say one of the affirmations is make sure that my mood elevator goes to the top floor today. The mood elevator. Here's the CEO of Yum Brands, 1.5 million people worldwide. And he's giving himself a pep talk in the morning so he brings great energy. What are you doing? Bring your answers to those 3 questions to your next team meeting. That's leadership in motion. The best leaders don't just work in an environment, they shape it. But you can't shape what you don't see. So slow down, observe, listen, know your environment, and then boldly lead within it. In our STEVIT leadership model, we've talked about self, team, and environment. Now let's talk about vision. And not just a slogan on a wall kind of vision. I'm talking about vivid, compelling picture of the future that pulls the team forward like a strong magnet. Know your vision. Let's start with this question. Where are you going? If you don't know, your team doesn't know, and they're not going to follow you. And if they don't know, they'll fill the gap with fear, confusion, or their own agenda. Vision isn't optional for leaders. It's like oxygen. Point number 1, vision aligns. Your team may have talent, passion, and even chemistry, but if they're not moving in the same direction, it's wasted energy. A powerful vision creates alignment. Everyone knows the goal. Everyone knows why it matters. Everyone knows their role in getting there. When there's alignment, there's flow. And when there's confusion, there's friction. Point number 2, vision inspires. Let me tell you about human beings. We are wired for purpose. We crave meaning. Your people don't just want a paycheck. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. If you want buy-in, cast a compelling vision. Here's the key. It has to be emotional, not just grow 10%. That's a goal. Vision is about the why behind the goal. Your impact, what impact are you making? What change are you creating? When your vision connects to their hearts, you unlock their full power. It's a beautiful thing to see. Number 3, point 3, vision filters your focus. A clear vision makes it easier to say no. That's shiny object, that new idea, that meeting? No. If it doesn't align with the vision, it's a distraction. It's like putting blinders on a racehorse. Think of the vision like a GPS. If you don't set the destination, you'll just wander. Set it clearly and let it guide your decisions, your calendar, and your conversations. Define your vision in 3 questions. Where are you going? Paint the picture. Use vivid, concrete language. Number 2, why does it matter? What's at stake? What changes if you win? What doesn't if you don't? What values will guide us? What kind of people do we need to be to get there? Put those things in writing. Share them with your team. Repeat them often. Live them consistently. Back when I was coaching, we'd have a big meal, team meal before the season started to set the vision. We wanted to align their hearts and minds. We talk about goals, our identity, our vision. And when we got back to the court, that clarity kept us grounded. It was like our North Star. You need teams to do that. My final challenge to you, if I called your top 5 employees right now and asked, what's the vision of your company? Would they all say the same thing? If not, don't worry. It's not failure. That's an opportunity. So this week, cast your vision, clarify it, communicate it over and over and over again. Because the moment you get clear, they get inspired. 6 things every leader must know to rebound, rise, and lead with clarity. We're talking about knowing yourself, your team, your environment, your vision. Today, we're diving into a big one. Know your industry. It isn't enough to know your product. You need to know your arena, because if you don't know your industry, you'll get left behind. Let me emphasize, if you don't know your industry, someone else will eat your lunch. Understanding the landscape, whether you're in healthcare, tech, real estate, NASCAR, or coaching, every industry is evolving. Disruption is a constant. And the leaders who win are the ones who can read the signs, can anticipate. So what does it mean to know your industry? It means understanding the key players and competitors, regulatory changes, consumer behavior trends, disruptive technologies, pricing pressures, global influences. Let's take an example. Blockbuster new movies, but they didn't know the industry was shifting from DVDs to streaming. They were in love with their model and blind to the movement. Don't be like Blockbuster. Be a student of the game. As a coach, I always studied film. I love studying film. I watched the other teams, yes, but I also watched our team. I called it self-scouting. Why? You notice patterns. To improve, you got to anticipate. Leadership is the same. Let me ask you this. Are you reading industry publications? Are you attending conferences? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you talking to your customers? Are you networking with your competitors? You don't have to be the smartest in the room. You just have to be the most curious. See, great leaders are students of the game. And what it comes down to really is passion. Do you like what you do? If you do, you'll be passionate about it, and you'll be passionate to learn about it. Leaders aren't satisfied with what they worked on last year. They're always asking, what's next? What can I do better? If you want to build trust, credibility, and long-term success, you got to stay hungry, stay humble, and stay informed. Lead ahead of the curve. Knowing your industry isn't about protecting your turf. It's about finding the white space. What's white space? It's the opportunity no one else sees until it's too late. Think Uber in transportation, Airbnb in hospitality, Tesla in energy and mobility. Those weren't just product innovations. They were industry insights. So I want to challenge you. Where's your industry heading in the next 3 to 5 years? And what are you doing today to prepare for it? I'm going to repeat that sentence. 3, 2, 1. And what are you doing today to prepare for it? Create space in your calendar for industry thinking. Don't just work in your business. You work on your business. You work on your future. See, this is quadrant 2 work in the Eisenhower matrix. I love talking about this stuff because quadrant 2 work, it's not urgent, but it's important. And most of us get caught in quadrant 1, all right, where it's urgent and important. We get in the weeds. Quadrant 2, that's planning, that's strategic, that's goals, that's goal setting, that's relationship building, that's learning about your industry. Go to dohertycoaching.com for more information on the Eisenhower matrix. Go to the resource page of dohertycoaching.com. There's a saying in sports, the game slows down for the great players. Why? Because they've studied, they know the plays, they've done the work, and they get in the zone. The same is true for leaders. When you know your industry, the chaos slows down. You make smarter decisions, you see farther, you rebound faster, you trust your gut. So be the leader who doesn't just show up for work. Be the leader who studies the game. Know your industry and lead it forward. We're talking about something that separates good leaders from great ones. Know the truth, not your version of the truth, not the truth you wish were true, but the real truth about yourself, your team, your business, and your results. This is the gut check moment. You know what's hard to spot? Your own blind spots. We all have them, and they're dangerous because we can't fix what we can't see. That's why leaders must constantly ask, what am I missing? What truth have I been avoiding? Where am I telling myself a story instead of facing reality? Here's a tough truth. You're only as strong as your willingness to hear the truth. In 2003, I was forced to confront a truth I didn't want to hear, that my leadership style at North Carolina wasn't working. It hurt. It was painful. But it was also the beginning of my growth. You don't fear the truth. You mine for the truth, and you embrace it. If you don't manage the truth will manage you right out the door. Feedback is a gift. One of the best ways to uncover truth is through feedback. But here's the catch. You have to create a culture where it's safe to speak it. Do your people tell you what you want to hear, or they tell you what you need to hear? Here's a phrase I love. Truth travels on trust. Let me repeat that. Truth travels on trust. If your team doesn't trust that you'll listen, or even worse, that you'll get mad, they'll stay silent. And silence is a breeding ground for problems. You got to invite feedback. You got to welcome truth tellers. Don't punish the messenger. See, if I was a head coach again, I'd hire an assistant, a veteran assistant, and I'd give them a business card, and on it, their title would be not assistant basketball coach. It would be truth teller. And that would be their pass that they can come to me anytime, interrupt me, and tell me the truth. And I would have to thank them. As much as I'd want to probably wring their neck, I'd have to stop and thank them. And then I get to decide what I want to do with that truth. But I don't want to avoid it. I want to mine for it. And when you hear hard truths, you don't deflect. You don't explain. You just say, thank you. Data doesn't lie. Another source of truth, data. Look, your gut matters. Your intuition is important, but if your numbers are off, the truth is trying to tell you something. You look at your sales numbers, customer retention, employee engagement, profit margins, project timelines. Data is not criticism. It's clarity. You got to study the numbers. If you're consistently missing the mark, don't shift the blame. Shift the strategy. Don't ignore the dashboard just because the warning light makes you uncomfortable. Are you the type of person when the oil light is red, you keep driving for another 100 miles? Or do you take it in for an oil change? The truth sets you free. You've heard that phrase before. The truth will set you free. Well, in leadership, it's not just freedom, it's power. When you face the truth, you build trust, you grow faster, and you sleep better. Truth isn't always comfortable, but it's always constructive. It allows you to course correct. It helps you make hard decisions, and it earns the respect of your team. So here's the challenge. This week, ask your team, what's the one truth I'm not seeing that I need to hear? Stop, listen, learn, and celebrate. You need to celebrate the truth. You need to praise the actions you want repeated. That's a big Dean Smith quote. Praise the actions you want repeated. If you want the truth from your team, praise it when they give it to you. See, great leaders don't hide from the truth. They hunt for it. They mine for the truth. Because only when you know the truth can you lead with integrity, clarity, and courage. Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. We all deal with adversity. And when you do, I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. If you'd like to contact me about executive coaching, workshops, or giving a keynote talk, you can reach me at dohertycoaching.com. That's DOHERTY coaching.com. Thanks for tuning in.